Dell.com today.
All right, so we've had a weekend to dwell on the reality of Twitter finding a new home in the hands of an acquisition. Joining us to talk about some of the developments is Alex Wilhelm from Mattermark. How's it going, Alex?
I'm very good. I'm actually wearing a TWiT t-shirt today by accident. So
it was meant to be.
Well, yeah, this proves I wasn't really meant to be on television today or the podcast. I look horrible, but I never say no. So hi.
Hi. No, you don't look horrible. Anything up here is overshadowed by what you got right here.
It's so true.
I can't tell if that's a chest hair joke or in my heart, but I take it as a compliment.
Anywho, moving on to the matter at hand. Okay, first of all, what were your thoughts when you heard late last week that Google, Salesforce, a bunch of others were interested in a run for Twitter?
Yeah, my first thought was about time. What I heard way back in the day was that if Twitter ever got below $30 a share, it was going to be in play, quote, quote, and that did not come to pass. We got down to, like 14, 15 bucks a share, and no one was biting. So for the longest time, I was just confused how Twitter went from, darling breakout star to single, giant by itself to no one wants it. And as the price went down, it became more and more obvious that it was a very troubled entity. But to see these bids kind of finally come out means that the value proposition that you and I and we've all thought existed is now more apparent to these large corporate players. And I'm curious more if they're playing against one another or they all just really want the asset in question itself.
Right. So today Bloomberg is reporting that Disney is working with a financial advisor to kind of weigh options on a bid for Twitter. What does Twitter bring to a content company like Disney, do you think?
Well, that rumor is very confusing to me, but what Twitter does bring is a very large media platform, especially for video content delivery. So as you know, the NFL is now showing some games on Twitter. They're doing some concerts, I believe, and it's been pretty well received because the implementation has been quite strong. I actually now watch more NFL than before because of those deals. So if you're Disney and you are a content company looking for ways to reach the cord-cutting audience, Twitter could be a pretty decent way to go about it. But the question then becomes, how far can they leverage buying Twitter as the sole provider without reducing its ability to draw content from other people if it's now purchased and part of the Disney empire? So it's kind of smart for Disney to think about it as a content delivery platform, but it can't be exclusive. And that undercuts the value it could probably drive by buying it as opposed to partnering with it. So it makes some sense from a content delivery perspective, but certainly not entirely.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't make sense to me that they would buy Twitter, that Disney would buy Twitter. I mean, but then I remember when Disney and ABC joined forces like that, and it was like, oh, how can Disney and ABC be the same company? Like that seems ridiculous. But it happens. I mean, media conglomeration happens. It's never good for us, but it might happen. But I mean, there's a user base of 300 million people on Twitter. But what would Disney do with us? I mean, what would they do with us?
What are you going to do with us?
You can't have conglomeration without agglomeration. So I kind of understand the idea of creating more users to their platform, but I don't see how what we do on Twitter fits into the Disney ethos of, family-friendly entertainment for everyone. If you look through their earnings, and I did before this segment to prep a little bit, they have a ton of money from cable, a ton of money from theme parks, and then I'm trying to fit the political and socioeconomic commentary we see on Twitter into that mix or niche, and it doesn't seem to line up. I get video distro, but how important is that to the broader Twitter experience? And then really, is it worth the amount of money they have to pay just to have slightly better visibility on a platform that isn't growing? I can't quite square it out. Though Disney can certainly afford the transaction. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. But that's not enough of a reason to drop up to $30 billion on a money-losing asset like Twitter.
Seems like we're hearing from basically all of these marquee companies, and I mean, Disney kind of came out of left field as far as I'm concerned. But, you hear from the standard ones, Google, Facebook's not interested, apparently. We just heard, or actually is being reported today, that Microsoft is also interested. I mean, is part of, when a company that has as much usage and as much of a kind of a particular kind of brand as Twitter does is rumored to be for sale, pretty much any big name technology company is going to at least kick the tires, right? And is part of that process seeking a financial advisor to kind of understand the financials behind it? Are we looking too much into every single company interested in Twitter?
No, I don't think so. I think it's very, very important. I mean, and I think the historical echo we can lean upon to underscore that point is the LinkedIn deal. Because as it's now very well known, Salesforce was bidding against Microsoft to try to buy that asset. So we're seeing these large, wealthy tech companies have enough dollars to compete with one another for these companies that may not be great independent firms. And so when you see a company go as far as hiring a financial advisor, it shows real material interest, not intent. But I think you're right about the tire kicking thing. I mean, we can all listen to the reports, we can all read through the earnings, we can all look at the balance sheet, but that doesn't get you into the depths of how there's a typo in that tweet. Thanks, guys. Excellent right there on the subtweet of the tweet during the show.
I thought that was a Twitter joke I didn't understand. I was like, oh, that must be some sort of thing like Harambe that I don't understand.
No, that's a mistake.
Okay.
That's great. The point there, for people that missed the image, it showed Twitter's share price going up dramatically on the Disney acquisition rumor and the Disney share price going down dramatically on the rumor that it may buy Twitter. Right. But turn it around. What would you guys pay for Twitter? It's worth about $20 billion today. What do you think a fair price would be?
What would I pay for Twitter? I mean, 25? I don't know. I don't know how to put a figure on that. That's a hard one.
Yeah, nothing. That's what I'd pay for it. Nothing.
Well, it does lose $100 million per quarter on a GAAP basis. So, it's in rough shape. What can you do?
So why is Twitter down Twitter up and Disney down on this news? I mean, apparently shareholders of Disney are not fans of Twitter, or do they think it's a liability? What do you think?
They're probably not fans of the use of that much equity and cash to buy the asset. I think Disney shareholders don't mind Twitter existing. I don't think they want to use that much of their balance sheet to bring it into the family. I mean, the joke earlier about Twitter's continuing losses is real and not real. It's real that it would be an impact that Disney would have to manage or at least cut down on the Twitter side of things. But Disney makes enough money on a quarterly basis and has a strong enough cash flow that it wouldn't really notice the impact. But at the same time, Disney has a strong dividend flow. It has share buybacks to take care of. It can't really afford probably to drop cash and stock to buy something that also dilutes its ability to reward shareholders. That gets expensive on both ways, or both directions, really. So, if I'm a Disney shareholder and I'm really happy with the performance of my company over the last 3 or 5 years, why do I want to invest a lot of money and time and executive attention into a company that I don't think is core to the business? I don't see it as accretive. I see it as distraction. So.
Well, what do you think about, every time something like this happens with Twitter, like everyone takes to Twitter to make fun of Twitter. It's like, you going over to someone's house and using their telephones, like call everyone and tell them that, you don't like the person's house you're at. So,
that's an awesome analogy. That's actually the best one I've heard yet.
Yeah.
I think your point, though, is really fair. Twitter is awesome. So all this discussion about how Twitter is best leveraged, who should own it, how we should use it, Twitter itself is amazing. I mean, before this little segment, me and Megan were talking on Twitter, then via DM, and then now on Skype. But it's kind of the natural platform for discussions of current events around the world still. And even though we joke about user growth and revenue growth and whatever, that's still true. The core Twitter experience, abuse problem aside, is incredible and very useful. So I think when we discuss, where it should fit, we can get a little caught up in the third screen stuff and the financials. But in reality, Twitter is still what I wake up to and what I go to sleep to. It's still the best thing online. Yeah. At least for me.
It should be its tagline, Twitter, the best thing online.
We should crowdfund to make, we should all crowdfund Kickstarter to buy Twitter.
Guys, that's just, it is still worth $20 billion. I know we joke a little bit, but it's still worth a lot of money than us three put together times 10,000. So
right, but who's going to buy it? It has to be I got this from Kurt Wagner, but he's a billionaire who just wants to buy it for fun. So
why does it have to sell? Why can't it just exist as an independent company? It's not growing very quickly right now, but it could theoretically turn that around.
Yeah.
I think the conclusion that it has to be sold is a bit of inside baseball on our side and kind of financial jujitsu. It could just keep on doing well. On an adjusted basis, it makes a lot of money once you reduce or take out share-based compensation from its financials. So Twitter, generates cash. It's doing fine. It's still growing. Did $603 million in revenue last quarter. It's a big deal. We should also keep that in mind. But at the same time, though, I really do prefer palace intrigue to kind of placid performance. So I'll take it. It's funner for us.
Yeah. It certainly gives us something to talk about.
Exactly.
Alex Wilhelm, Mattermark.com. Where can people follow you online on Twitter, let's say?
I am Alex on Twitter, and my backup account on Instagram is, as always, Megan Maroney.
Excellent. Cool. Go to both places. Follow, subscribe, whatever it is. Thank you, Alex, as always. It's a pleasure.
Enjoy the debates.
Have a good night.